at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Going to be live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns. So this is episode 1200 something, and we've been doing this for a while, since 2016, and we go live every weeknight. And the show has changed a little bit over the years, and recently I've been adding the watch list, or what I've been paying attention to. I guess I can find it easier in the description of the video. So I'm going to jump over to that so I can show what we're looking at. 16. And so if we go down to the description of the video there, you see that we've got a couple of the videos that we've been watching, or in this case, watching over the weekend. So starts out with high caliber history. Logan from back east, I think he's in Virginia, has been doing a podcast. This was episode number 7. He called it From Slave to Lawman because they talked about Bass Reeves there for a while. But they actually talk about quite a few interesting things in that podcast, or that episode. And we, of course, got a link to that in the description there. That's on YouTube. You can watch it whenever. If anybody's watched that, we could talk about it. We got the Plate Society podcast. So the Plate Society podcast has been going on for quite a while. I don't know what episode they're on, but it's quite a few. They've recently changed over to the Second Amendment Foundation's channel, and they are now doing their live show over there. So that happened earlier today. But Second Amendment Foundation actually has a couple of things on the list here, because they also talked about, or they interviewed Dr. John Edeen from Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, DRGO. Dr. Go is what I call it, even though I don't think that's what they call it. That was an interesting one. Plus, Dr. Dean's looking pretty good. Last time I seen him, I see him at Gun Rights Policy Conference each year. He was not as he looks like he's getting in shape, so it's cool. Let's see. So then we got what would have been a chat today with Crump. Turned out to not be the scheduled topic, but his scheduled topic was to talk to a place called Operation Backbone, which I'd never heard about. Looked into it, and it's brain and spinal surgeries for wounded special operations fighters. So getting super high-end care and technology for some of the craziest injuries that would be outside the realm of normal care, right? Like, so that they're getting people who need it, the help that they need. At least what it sounds like. So that'll be interesting to hear that one when that one comes through. But he ended up having his chat and talked to Gorilla Guns. I want to say Buffalo Guns for some reason, but Gorilla Guns, or Guns and Gorilla. It's Gorillas and Guns, I think, is his co-host on the show. Well, his co-host on the podcast that he'll be doing, but played co-host today with him. And they just chatted about some stuff until it looks like he got some kind of email and ended the show kind of short. We got a video I posted about the playing cards. Has got an order come in today. Thank you for that. And as I was packaging it up, I decided to make a quick video, and then we posted that right away. Just to talk about the cards. Haven't done that in a while, where they come from, and a little bit about how we ship them, and just kind of remind people that there is still time to grab stuff before Christmas, I think. Although I did notice that now when you send stuff, the post office is making more of a effort to let people know that they're low on faculty or low on staff. And of course, a lot of people using the system this time of year anyway, but even more so because of this year. And that makes sense, but at least they're letting people know right as they purchase, now right as you ship, or as you track, which is better than there was nothing alerting people to that situation before. Let's see. So I posted a video about that on the big channel. Then I got a video in here, a couple of links to other videos in here. One of them was from Black Rambo, cool dude, Marine, who has a channel. He's like a singer, but then kind of played around and made a channel and kind of more than just singing. Yeah, I think he kind of started out making some novelty songs, and then the gun-centric novelty songs, and then kind of played with the YouTube channel a little bit around that. I wasn't really paying attention because I thought it was sort of a come and go type of thing, but he's been sticking around for a while now, years, and came out with his own ammo. And it's pretty neat. So anyway, I hooked up with him a little bit at SHOT Show 2 years ago, or was it this year? Might have been this year. Just noticed him in the thing as he was walking by. He's pretty obvious. He's all decked out, looking like Black Rambo. You can tell he's all got his like stuff on. So did a quick video just to help him promote the ammo that was coming out. Since then, it has come out, and he was doing a video this time on the U-loader, and I wanted to put that in here because that U-loader that he just got, or that he did a video of it kind of arriving and doing an unboxing, looked like it was made out of Bakelite, and I don't know if that's a thing or not, or if it's just painted like that, but having one of them things is one thing, but having one of them things made out of Bakelite that comes from the Ukraine, that's a whole other thing. And then there's a video I found about making rope from plastic bottles that was pretty interesting. So I put a link in there. I don't know why it fed me that. But it was interesting. So I watched it because it's like 2 seconds long. There's nothing to watch. But that's the stuff that's in the notes. We'll now open this up to conversation because unlike a lot of the other shows that play lip service and do whatever shenanigans to try to get you to watch what they're doing, this is all about being part of the evolving conversation about the Second Amendment. And we're here every weeknight. So now you can use that link, click on it, and then that would take you into here, give you part of the conversation, or you can type on your keyboards with your fingers or whatever you do, and make words happen on the screen. And then that's how you can be part of the conversation. We use the English language and the typical spelling of things, and then we use that to form words that create concepts that we can use to get impressions and ideas across to each other. And then we talk about those after reading them and thinking about them, and then applying our reference and our experiences to them, and then things evolve from there. And that's how evolution of thoughts and conversation takes place, or sparks come from, or we come up with ideas to do new things. So or DJ hangs out for a minute, says a couple things, and then we end it short. Like I say, I'm not really here pushing in some kind of agenda or programming on you, just creating a place where we can have a conversation. I believe we're being corked right now. So you can blame it on that. You can blame it on the rain, or you can blame it on whatever. You can fill in the blank, because it's easy to blame stuff on other people when nothing happens. But when things happen, you can also blame it on other people. So it works out pretty good. Got Wilt is out there. Good evening. Seeing if anybody's going to join tonight. So we started out here, got a good 10 minutes in, just talking about stuff in the notes there. DJ's jumping in. See if
hey, man, how's it going?
And it's fair to Midland. How's it going on that end of the microphone?
Oh, wow. It's a chilly one today. We didn't break freezing again, and the sun barely had a chance to burn through before it turned dark again. So a little bit cold, but have some soup on the warm, and yeah, good to go.
Everybody just uses natural gas in those kind of regions.
Yeah, a lot of folks do. Rural, you're talking oil and propane. Some people in the city are still propane, but yeah, otherwise gas, and some people still run electric furnaces and shit like that.
Yeah, is there much electric stuff happening in the north anymore? Or is it, because I would think that's got to be the least efficient of ways to heat a house or something.
Yeah, the catch is that a lot of folks didn't retain their gas service when they switched over to electric, when that was supposed to be like the next cheapest, longest term thing. And now no one wants to retrofit a home for what that's going to cost. The furnaces aren't, appreciably different in price, but fresh install on old construction is just, all kinds of hazard, especially when it comes to some stuff is grandfathered in and some stuff just simply is not. And everything has to be super perfect to code. Of course, you never want to mess around with a natural gas line anyway. But yeah, I'm blessed with a home heated by natural gas.
I guess I've just done too much working on stuff. I don't care about working on gas. Gas is easier than water because it's got less pressure in it, so it's easier to deal with common stuff, and the pipe is usually nicer. But let's not talk about that. We're just doing that to kind of get the pump prime. Wheel jumped in. We already talked about a couple of things here. Dead horses out there. We'll see if anybody else joins in tonight. But to kind of prime the thing, we got a couple of things there to talk about. Otherwise, if you guys talk about your with here, we can dig in.
I hit 500 subscribers yesterday.
Right on. So, how much of was that something they've been working on, or something that happened, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do 2 videos a week. So yeah, it's 8 months at it. So I was hoping to get to 1,000 by the end of the year, but obviously that's not going to happen.
When did you start making videos?
April
of this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like you started and then said, "Oh, I want to do this 2-year plan," and then this year was weird and messed with your plans. You built it in the middle of this weird year. So where did you come up with 1,000? Was that just a guess, or was that like a calculated estimate?
No, it was just a guess, just a goal.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You got to pick something sometimes, and that's not unreasonable. It's not reasonable. It's not either. It's just a place. So 500 isn't bad either.
Right.
Right on. So that's saying stuff like, because this is Monday, we might as well talk about this kind of stuff. Do you say, I don't watch all your videos or whatever, so at the end of your videos, you say stuff like, "Hey, I care about this, like subscribe and click on my shit. I'm here for that part of it."
Not that much. I mean, I end it with a little flash up that says, like, subscribe at the end, just the exit window. Pretty much everybody's gone by then anyway. But
so here's what I'll throw out there then. You got people that are going to watch that, probably in multiple camps, but just to generalize them, you got some people that care about this, making you a bigger channel, or they care about making, facilitating so that you are encouraged, I guess, encouraging you to come back to human, and other people are just, not interested in any of that, the mechanism of it. So because there are so many people that are aware of that mechanism, and the gain is better than the loss, any potential loss, because the people that don't care aren't going to do anything anyway. The people that care about you saying, "Hey, like and subscribe," like if you say this, you're watching this video on YouTube, and I'm a new channel and I care, so I'd like you to subscribe to my channel so that I can keep doing this. The people that listen to that and go, "Oh, damn, I didn't know that. Let me go over and help him," right? There's something you got to gain there. And those people now totally know what you're doing. The people that hate that, the people that are like, "Oh, I can't believe he said that," or "Oh, I hate it when channels say that," that guy would have never subscribed to your stuff anyway. She would have never even thought to go over and subscribe. So the people that you're offending, who gives a crap? Because they're not going to do nothing for you anyway. But the people that would have helped you, who didn't know that you give a crap about that, just didn't even know. And what's nice about it is when what's an additional perk of that, I don't want to say it's nice because who cares, it's not one way or the other, but an additional perk of that is that when you give a crap and you let people know, like let's say DJ had never been online before, he comes along, finds your video and goes, "Wow, that was cool," and then you say something to the effect of, "Hey, if you subscribe and click that little bell thing, that helps me out." and come up with some clever way to say it that's boilerplate, so you always say the same thing, or come up with some clever way so it's always a different way of saying it. Either way, DJ is going to hear that and go, oh, that's cool. Like, I didn't know that. And now, since you just told DJ about it, now he can go over to Dead Horse's channel and do the same thing. Now he can go to some other channel and go, now I know how the program works. So you've not only helped him help you out, but you've helped him out because he's the new guy. And there's something to be said for that. The people that dismiss that don't give a shit. The people that dismiss that aren't playing the real game. The people that dismiss that are just there for the quick score. They're not really playing the game, trying to get people involved. So, I think that's cool. You got 500, and especially if you weren't doing all that, because then it's a whole different conversation. If you're pushing for that, and it's like, then it's either, oh, I'm so happy I got there, or I'm frustrated that it didn't happen fast enough. But either way, that's a different conversation than that you just hit the milestone, kind of not out of nowhere, but that it finally came, and that you didn't just wait forever for 500 or something, which can happen, I suppose, right? If you don't do anything.
Yeah. So, giving away a couple of knives this week, and in a big bunch of patches from you. Thanks a lot. And then when I hit 1,000, I'm giving away a 6.8 SPC upper by Radical Firearms.
I encourage you to, if you're interested, I would encourage you to have some fun with that and have some levels to it, some depth to it, some more involvement than just show up and do whatever dance or whatever manipulations I'm asking you to do so that you can win this. Because not only will people just walk away when you're not actually giving them something, but you just get you have more fun with it. I think you can for example, like, hey, I'm going to send you one of G-Web's patches. They may or may not already have one of mine, but nobody has it with whatever else you're sending it. So, like, if you can, do something where you ask for something in response or a reply, or send me a picture of holding this at your favorite gun shop, or put this next to your favorite something and snap that picture, or post something, or include it in the video. You do something like that, and
Right.
You can just have some fun with it instead of just, because that's the thing is when people know you're involved in doing all that, then that's a whole nother set of audience that you're bringing to the table. I'd rather have the 12 or 15 people or 75 people that watch this show. I'd rather have them over any of the 160,000 I have on my other channel. I have 160,000 people I'd never met before on the big channel. And I have 75 people on this channel that watch this show. I probably met most of you. Like, I know most of the people. Right? Like, these people are the people that care about what we're talking about. So the big numbers, it's neat, but unless you're trying to impress a gun shop, the big numbers just mean probably a people workers and weirdos.
No, I mean, the reason I wanted to get to 1,000 by the end of the year is I wanted to go to the SHOT Show. So,
Well, no, that's a good one too. Yeah.
Anyway, there's always 2021, or I guess 2022 is what we're looking at already since the show's in January.
I just heard that we're getting real bad feedback. I don't know if you're rubbing on your mic or something, but from the Light Society podcast this earlier today that the NRA show got moved from, I forget when it was, May to September, the beginning of September. So now the NRA show for 2021 is already moved. So they canceled this year. They're already moving next year about 6 months. So hopefully that's not precedent or an indication of what other places are going to do. Because at this point, there's quite a few events, shows, or get-togethers that are still on the calendar. They're all planned for next year still.
I went to the NRA show 2 years ago in Atlanta when Trump was there. They wouldn't let you take guns in that year.
I heard they wouldn't let you take guns to the thing that Trump was at, but the other parts of it, they didn't care.
No, they wouldn't let you take them at all. Not into the hall that whole day.
Yeah, that's weird. And that's the only time it's a rare
Yeah,
thing.
he showed up on Friday, and it was just Friday. So If you came Thursday or Saturday, it was no problem, but just Friday.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense, I guess. But yeah, it's still dumb.
Yeah. I had a knife, and in the way I went in, um, just a handicap. They were like, "Oh no, follow me. You can't go down the escalator. Go in this elevator." I went through this whole labyrinth in the back doors and ended up behind security and got in without being searched anyway. So
Yeah, I went to. I was going to say, one time I was up on the mountain here. There's a mountain right next to Tucson. I was up there doing something, and Charles Heller was telling me that whenever, I can't remember, it must have been Bush. So anyway, some president came out here and went up on top of the mountain to do something, made some kind of speech or some sort of announcement from up on top of this mountain in Tucson. And whenever they did that, you couldn't go up the mountain with a gun. They stopped you. Basically, the top of the mountain isn't that big. So by the time you got up there, like they wanted you to not have a gun. So I don't remember if he said, I don't think they said they were stopping at the bottom of the mountain. But by the time you got to the top of the mountain where it flats out, they would stop you and like you couldn't go any further with a gun. And that's freaking top of a mountain. Like, what are you going to do? Sniper somebody with? I guess that's the fear, I suppose, actually.
right.
Because now that I said that, it's probably the fear is that, like, yeah, you're going to go up there and with a hunting rifle, you didn't even need near somebody.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to really prove that one. Yeah, I made it all the way to the top with the sniper rifle.
Anyway, so any other topics? I think that was a good one.
When I saw Bush, he was speaking in at a trade show, and it was the last day, and I had that one of those pop up booths that's about the size of a rifle in a cardboard container, and there was absolutely no security. I went through the back door again because I couldn't go down the escalator where the security guard was. So Barney Fife let me in the back door, and I had this box that would look, it was 4 foot long and 6 inches by 6 inches, and I went right on through there, balancing that big box on my lap, and he held the door open, let me in there. Not that it was a gun; it was a pop up, but he didn't know that. Just sometimes that security on those, I guess, ex-presidential details is pretty limited.
I don't know. I'm guessing the other way. I was going to say, I'd imagine these guys, special or Secret Service. From what I understand, that's like you don't just wander into the Secret Service. Like you're pretty hardcore. Like you are dedicated and you take your job seriously. I get the impression that they've seen a couple of things by the time the president's retired. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying they know everything. I'm just saying they probably can tell when somebody comes up because they're so used to seeing normal people come up and see a president and probably can't imagine you probably your eyes open and then you smile or something like when they see somebody who isn't doing the normal pattern, that's when they perk up. So I'm sure they're just so used to seeing so many people that they're just really good at giving you the verbal eye pat down or whatever that's called.
Yeah, my cousin was actually real high up in the Secret Service, and he worked for Clinton. And remember when they were talking about Clinton and saying they were going to start interrogating all the Secret Service guys and find out what all they knew on Clinton? My cousin was pulled out of Secret Service and put in the Treasury Department, and they sent him over to Russia to talk about the new $100 bills and how to detect counterfeit ones from real ones, because a lot of Russians hold $100 bills because the currency is going to be good forever. But anyway, they pulled him out of the country and sent him to Russia just so he couldn't be there to be investigated.
Yeah, nice. Oh, you want to talk to this guy? No problem. He's in Siberia, we think.
Exactly. But my cousin, he's so professional, he would never say anything.
So, any other topics? I feel like we should be solving at least something by 33. Otherwise, the paper failure. Anybody watch any of these shows today? Like Caliber History did the podcast with the dude from, well, it's from a new museum, a Marshall Museum that isn't even, yeah. The Polite Society podcast. No, DJ was in that one. I think my DJ was in the other one where it was supposed to be the Operation Backbone one. I don't know if anybody's heard of Operation Backbone. We could play and stuff.
Yeah. I
What was
didn't
Operation
make it
Backbone?
into the high caliber history, but I figure I'll check that out on the overnight. But yeah, Polite Society was cool, and that's the first I've heard of that organization. The Special Forces guys really could use that kind of thing, and I think that's a great way for them to advocate and get those kind of services and those kind of cutting edge solutions. Most def.
So I don't know, Wheel, have you ever heard of this particular one, Operation Backbone, before?
No, I hadn't. What type of weapons do they have that were neat?
No. Operation Backbone. So it is it's an organization for, well, it's for special operators. And so I don't know. Here's the deal. Green Berets are special forces in whatever 1959 or whatever. They invented everything. There's a specific word for special forces. Everything together, the SEALs and the Marine Recons and everything else, is special operations. So to be accurate technically, it's for special operations veterans or wounded, and they provide. I'm trying to open the website here. They provide the high-end surgeries and techniques and procedures and stuff like that for wounded special operators. So not just everybody in the military, but the guys who are probably carrying 3 times as much weight as a normal grunt would carry, and then parachuting in and having to be in a remote area with limited amount of people, and typically straining themselves differently or more often than typical soldiers, and then doing things like SEALs and other guys that are jumping out of airplanes and swimming and stuff. They just end up compressing their backs a lot. So they didn't actually do an interview. The guy didn't show, and they didn't have an interview. So all I have is the website to go off of. Unfortunately, it's a very sparse website. It's mostly just a couple of articles. So I don't really know if it's much more about it. Sometimes when these sites are crude, it's because the people are just not tech savvy and they're doing their best. Other times it's because, I don't know. I suspect it's that, though. So it looks like it's maybe case studies or stories of, but because it's not quite super sophisticated, it's just not, it's a little bit clunky. They're not, I can't tell if it's an accumulation of stuff or if there's some story being told here. I haven't looked around enough. But anyway, so it's an unknown at this point, but it sounds like a not totally small situation, small operation. But I also, doesn't give me the impression that it's a really big. It's not like Wounded Warriors or something that's a household name. In other words, it's not. I've never heard of it before, and it doesn't. Just like things like the logo being like this, they never had anything done like T-shirts or anything like this. Just too much detail, too many different colors. It's just if they were big time operation, it'd start turning into like Wounded Warriors, where it's just a silhouette in one color. So just little things like that make me think that it's probably a smaller situation, but that's all I know. I'm just giving you my 2 cents.
I went through the fellowship program for the Paralyzed Veterans of America, and it was a new part of the organization that was going to, work with donors, and they were teaching us how to be social media savvy and not be political, and all the right things. We went through about a 1-week training period up in Minnesota 2 years ago, and then after we finished, the yearly get together with all the chapters met, and all the chapters voted us out of existence the day we finished our training, because apparently they were jealous that we were going to be taking over their chapter. I don't know, just politics.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the average age of the chapter members are like 70, and the average age of us were, like I was, on the high end at, 50, and they were, probably 30 was the average age. Mostly, most recent, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans.
So you're saying the younger guys voted the old guys out, or the old guys voted the young guys out?
The old guys voted the young guys out.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we have an evolution of stuff. I suppose that's the kind of shenanigans that happens, and then somebody creates another organization, and then it either competes or it doesn't. And unfortunately, we're not hive, we're not bugs or whatever, right? We don't just all get along. So hopefully, well, that wasn't yesterday. You said that was a while ago. So something did happen from that.
So that was 2 years ago. So we were having monthly calls after that, and then they just stopped happening. We skipped a couple months. I had one more call, and then no more calls after that.
No, and then this year couldn't help nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know the story on it, but that's the kind of stuff where this kind, that potentially something came out of that, right? Like somebody still needs help, so that's frustrating. So I never even thought of that. I think about the suicide stuff once in a while, and I think the perception is, I don't know. I had never actually asked anybody. I assume that when they talk about the 22 a day, they're talking about younger folks, younger veterans. But then at some point, at least I began thinking about that when I first heard that concept. There's, this 22 a day awareness campaign started maybe 15, something like that. I think maybe a little bit earlier. Maybe
Right.
14, but it wasn't around forever. So whenever that first hit the scene, I first experienced it, and it's just assumed because I know so many guys, my age, I guess a little younger, that are coming back and doing stuff. So I thought, it's younger kids. But then I started thinking, oh dang, like the greatest generation's ending, and we don't have any sort of legal. You can't check into a hospital and not check out. Like you got to either crash and burn, you got to do something, or you die horribly in some weird hospital way in front of your grandkids, right? So I could see that not being appealing to people on the old side. So so that got me thinking, like this whole thing with the 22 a day, like where's that? And are the old people being represented or the young people? So I've thought about it from that angle, but never from the from the disability or from the physical, not the mental. Dead Horse is kind of saying what I was saying. Operation doesn't look like a legit website. I've seen scam sites like that before. Not saying, but it looks fishy, and that's pretty much what I was trying to explain too. I think is that it doesn't look professional enough to be legit. Like it does look homemade or something, and it's just a bunch of what's the word, like examples of what they've done, but nothing that's consistent. So it doesn't look like anybody actually did the same thing over and over and over. It looks like it's just been added to, which is the only thing that doesn't make it look like a total scam. Because you're right, it's all it is like, here's some things that are sad, and here's the link to donate. And since we haven't heard from the guy, it's either an amateur situation or some kind of not 100% legit. Right. And nothing about that you would have to have officially. Like once you raise a certain amount of money officially, you're not just doing it out of caring. Like you can't just raise however much. I can't even imagine how much it would cost to get back surgery, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like you don't just raise tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, give it away, and not have some sort of a situation where you're not paying taxes on that. Like one of the reasons I'm screwed is because I'm paying taxes on the $20,000 that we brought in, for the patches, because I'm an idiot and I don't know how to turn that into not paying taxes on it, So when you're really getting nothing but donations and, you're just turning that money around, like at least I spent that money. Like, they're not even spending it. They're just turning it around and giving it away. Like that would be a lot of income. So there's got to be something more to it. But we'll know if we ever have a interview with the guy, I guess.
What was the second show that you were on today?
I wasn't on any shows. I was just listening to these. The one we were talking about was the High Caliber History. That's the guy from who has worked at the NRA Museum before, and he's worked at the Smithsonian. He's worked at some other museums, and now he's a historian, kind of a rogue historian on his own. And
Mhm.
he's doing a podcast, and he talked to a guy there's going to be a new museum, a Marshall's Museum in Fort Smith, Arkansas, or Arkansas, if you spell it or pronounce it correctly. And that museum isn't open yet, but the guy who is going to be the curator of that museum has been the curator of Cody and another one. So he's been the curator of other gun museums before, so he knew about stuff that I only knew about. Like he knows the backstory and talked about the backstory of the collection that's at the Art Institute of Chicago, for example. That was a super interesting story. Then he talked about Bass Reeves. For some reason he knows all about Bass Reeves, I guess because he's a Marshall Museum thing, and Bass Reeves was a Marshall. A lot of people think Bass Reeves is where Long Ranger came from. So that was a really interesting discussion. That guy thinks he didn't, which is interesting. But that was one of the podcasts, and that was an hour or something, I think. The Polite Society one we were talking about, which was the Polite Society podcast, is a group of people who have been doing a podcast for quite a while. It's usually it's usually 3 or 4 dudes and a girl or two, and it's changed over the years a little bit, but very consistent, long running podcast focused on 2A. They never really did anything online. They did it as a podcast and sent it out to the podcast world. Just very recently, they've turned it into a more of a YouTube online type of live thing and put it on the Second Amendment Foundation's channel on YouTube. And this was the first time they actually did it live on the bigger channel, the Second Amendment Foundation's channel. So while the podcast has been around for a long time and they've done it online, this is the first time they did it online on a bigger channel with a lot more viewers. And we could talk all kinds of stuff about that, because not only was the podcast interesting and the topics are all valuable, but they also got wailed on with the comments, and that's a whole nother thing. And they dealt with it weird because they never deal with comments ever. So, I mean, they're dealing with trolls weird.
Oh, there's a bunch of trolls there.
Was it trolls or was it antis? DJ was there. Were you watching all that?
I came in late and all the comments were deleted. So I just had to wonder.
So I don't know. One of them was definitely like Antifa-ish type of weirdo who was like anti-gun, saying just hateful, insightful stuff, saying vulgar things and racist stuff, and just definitely, well, that's the thing. Paul was like, oh, 12-year-olds playing in the chat. Well, no, 12-year-olds don't say that stuff. I understand his sentiment, but this wasn't somebody just throwing rocks to make noises. This was somebody throwing rocks to break glass. They wanted to disrupt and mess with the flow of the conversation, and to some extent it worked. I mean, I'm not invulnerable to that, but that's typically when a troll will come in and do something to distract so that they can either get a sense of accomplishment that they diverted something, like, oh, I took it off course, or to literally take you off course. Like, our goal is to take you off course, so we're going to do things, progressively more and more intense until we take you off course, like until that happens. In this case, I'm not sure what the goal was, so I'm not sure if they were appeased or if it just wasn't that harsh an attack, but it was certainly some sort of more than just your typical, like, I'm bored and I'm coming by. So I don't know if it was somebody I can't imagine being against Paul or any of them people. I mean, I can understand, everybody's got a personality and stuff, and somebody might not like their perspective or their tone of their voice or their personality, right? We're all just humans or whatever. But this seemed less personal than like, I want to derail the conversation. Like, I don't want people to talk about this on the internet. Not so much I don't want these people to talk about stuff on the internet. So
Right.
The comments were just more like odd and clunky and generic, but it was annoying. It was definitely a lot of them. And it happened for so long that it was like, well, crap, do I quit watching? Because this is now distracting the host and it's starting to distract the guest. There was 6 guests, a host and 5 others. And he was definitely reading them. And I think they started to read them. So now they're not really talking about the topic, who's the guest. Now they're reading this and they don't know because they're not used to it. So it was just kind of slowing things down. Then they eventually just started deleting the stuff like DJ said, and then it was over because in this case, they weren't the bad guys or whatever they weren't adamant at all. They just were trying to be weird, so they left. I was just kidding, but and not really kidding that way too. But I was talking about the private chat there. I was just like, whoa. But so anyway, they kind of left, and then it was completely back to normal. Like, and they had a great discussion, like the Plate Society podcast. Me, I like 2A stuff. I can't watch theirs. They just focus too much on self-defense. I can't get behind that justification for the Second Amendment or being a Second Amendment advocate. Self-defense is a great extra reason to like the Second Amendment, but I can't get behind like the main reason for it. And they're definitely more into that than me. And they're so slow. Like, holy crap, they talk slow. And I just don't enjoy it. So I don't listen to their podcast very often unless there's something going on. This was unusually better. So maybe they've gotten better or something, maybe having Charlie on there, something, I don't know. But it was definitely better than stuff I've seen in the past. And then they had the dude on from Buckeye who needs to figure out how to either quit smoking or not put his mic down his throat or something. But that was a little frustrating. I'm sure that was egging on. That'll egg on a troll when you're just, I don't know, just weird, like breathing heavy into the mic like that. That's just shows like that you're not going to deal with the troll well, I think. And then they go, oh, great. I got one on the line here. Like I can go do that. Something weird and this will distract them for sure, I suspect. So anyway, they were definitely messing with that guy while he was talking. But once all that was gone, once the distraction, which came from an outside source, was out of there, then boom, I think they got it right back on track. Like I said, I was super impressed, super stoked to be able to see it live. In fact, growth is the result of change and whatever, pain sometimes. And that was, they needed to learn trolls. And if they had to get trolls, crap, that was like the 9mm of trolls. That was definitely not abusive trolls or good trolls. There's a bunch of little kids, young, non-experienced trolls. Like they weren't trying hard. So they were able to deal with it. And that was neat to be able to observe. Because like I say, as much as I'm frustrated that they hadn't done this, I would have much rather have them, the Plate Society podcast and the Second Amendment Foundation and the people involved. I'm still going to hold them accountable. This has been available to them since 2012. I would have much rather have them do this at the end of the last election cycle so that they'd be fluent and proficient through this last year. But at least they're doing it, and they're doing it fast. Like they're not farting around doing it as slow as I thought they were going to take. So I'm going to give them all the kudos I can while still giving them grief for not doing this a long time ago. Anyway, that was pretty fun to watch. And like I say, there's lots of topics in there. DJ's watched a bunch. I don't know if you want to bring up anything. Otherwise, I'll just keep blowing through. It was...
Yeah, had I not known that... had I not seen 50 deleted messages, I wouldn't have known that anything was amiss because I arrived after it happened. And there's only one other person.
The thing that they did do is they brought up how we was scrolling that weird, let's take your comment, make it tiny, and scroll it like a centimeter an hour, slowly up from the bottom. You know what I mean? They're doing it, but they're just doing it the most weird way ever. So they're taking the thing and not putting it at the bottom of the screen, which would be horizontal, right? Using measurements in the right way, having it actually go with our lettering. Instead, they're taking everything and cramming it into a paragraph and cramming it up the side on a crawl. So they've got the buttons. They're just not fluent in how to do them efficiently. But yeah, one of the times they sent up one of those scrolls of, or scrawl, or whatever that's called, of the bad guy's name. And that's what they live for. They live to have their name on the screen. And certain ones of them, if you're new as a host and you let a bad guy say something on your channel, they're going to come back and be kind of medium bad to you because they know that they're going to keep getting stuff on your channel because it's the long game. And then when you're familiar enough with them, they're going to get you to say penis in a bag, or they're going to get you to say, I like things in my butt or something, you know what I mean? And then they're going to be like, ha ha, we got you. And then they're going to run off. So it's just like you didn't do the worst thing in the world, but like you probably invited them back by doing something dumb. Yeah. And I don't know, but it just seemed like, you know, that's just like I say, it's just annoying that they're doing this now. Like, come on, we could have figured this out like when we all figured this stuff out years and years ago.
Yeah, it did seem to maybe catch him a little, you know, from left field. And yeah, I didn't know that they tossed that up in the scroller because it was white against that light blue, and it was so tiny on my phone, I couldn't tell what any of it said. I couldn't even see if my stuff was scrolling up.
Exactly. I knew what my stuff said, and I could read whatever you say. They'd scroll, and I'm like, well, I already read it on YouTube, so that's whatever DJ said or whatever, right? Because every once in a while they'd show something on Facebook, and I'm like, well, I don't know what they said because I can't read it real. I can only see that something was pushed up from Facebook. Unless it said like awesome, because one word would show up way bigger than a paragraph or whatever. Okay, so Dead Horse said he did some research, and they are legit. They just have a bad website, and that's why it would have been neat to hear from the guy. So thank you for doing that, because I had only researched it for maybe 5 minutes before the thing was supposed to start. And then once it didn't start and the guy didn't show up, I didn't know which way that reinforced, right? Did that reinforce that the guy's a flake, or is it reinforced that he's just super busy, right? Oh, okay, so this is video. I got to figure out how to get this open over here. You on YouTube?
I don't see any advantage of, besides reaching a more general audience, maybe, or less inclined one, to do the whole Facebook thing. That's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just because I've never done it that I find it strange. I just always have access through YouTube.
Most people on the Second Amendment Foundation live on Facebook. I've been dragging them off. They're trying to get them to drag off of Facebook for years. They do everything on Facebook. That's super comfortable for them. The YouTube part is completely foreign for them. I don't know about the live part. I'm sure they're not doing the live part of Facebook. That's new to them also, but Facebook is their home. So this is Congressman Higgins speaking on Operation Backbones. This is Dead Horse Found the Source. So I'm going to open it up, and I don't think they're going to care if I play one.
The gentleman from New York seek recognition. Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Speaker, I recently met with 2 veterans and their families who traveled to Buffalo for medical treatment. Initially, I thought they were receiving care at our highly regarded VA hospital. But in fact, they were brought to Buffalo by Operation Backbone, an organization that works with private doctors to provide specialty care that is not available within the Veterans Administration system. The families expressed frustration that they could not obtain through the VA the highly specialized and efficient care they were receiving in Buffalo. It was not until Operation Backbone arranged their treatment and the Buffalo Sabres hockey team facilitated recovery that these men received the care they needed. I commend Operation Backbone and the Buffalo Sabres for their commitment to our veterans, but their work is necessary only because Congress is failing in its responsibility to these men and women. When we ask our service members to put their bodies on the line, we incur a moral obligation to get them the best possible care when injury occurs. Last year, Congress provided funding for the VA to hire more physician specialists. It was a good first step, but making sure the VA has the resources to care for our veterans is a sacred responsibility that will require our attention this year and for many years to come.
Yeah, thanks again for finding that. That's what I was hoping for, that it was just they don't have the time or the interest to spend money on their website, right?
Yeah, I hope that there's someone out there, or someone's out there, who is going through and finding organizations like that and ferreting out the fakes. That'd just be horrible, you know, to find out that you made a contribution in any way to something so disgusting. Like, especially maybe in the days now that we're not past, but the big swell in the stolen honor thing is reached public consciousness.
yeah, but stolen honor has been, or stolen valor, I guess, has been a thing since, well, a long time. Like after every war, they have to deal with it. Literally since the Revolutionary War, probably, but I know the Civil War was a thing. There's movies written about it, and then yeah, after the big wars, guys would come home and all the bums and stuff would act like they were soldiers, to take advantage of people's goodwill. Oh, all right, get it back positive. We got Daily Bullet, which was Dr. Edeen. I don't know if everybody's heard of Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. They're pretty awesome. When what is it called? Center for Disease Control was doing research, getting paid by the government to do research to justify gun control. One doctor specifically got up and said, nope. And as a doctor, helped end that concept, that situation. And that's where the Dickey Amendment comes from. And then DRGO has done a couple of things since then, getting a list of doctors who understand gun owners. So if you have issues and you don't want to, or you're scared to go into a regular doctor, I guess, or you have concerns about going to a regular doctor, I guess would be the way to say it. There's like a list of doctors that get you hooked up. And then of course, well, I shouldn't say of course, but now they've also added Hearing Protection Act concepts of the hearing safety or the ear safety part of it to their, like, I don't know what you call it, like agenda or list of positions or whatever. So not only an organization that exists and done some interesting things when it was necessary, back in the day, let's say, but also continuing to exist and do stuff and have a place for doctors to get together and do their thing. So today, is it today? Yeah, that was an earlier today's thing. As I was watching that one, I don't know about y'all, I'm in a position where there's not too many organizations I'm not a life member of. I became a life member of many of the organizations back when I was making YouTube money. I had money because it's like $300 for the cheapest ones. They're like $150, $300 usually to be a life member of these organizations at the national level. So anyway, I joined for a year. I can't do life members anymore. But I joined Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership today for the first time. I've never been a member before. So it's $35. It's a thing to do. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I mainly liked the fact that, I've been watching them now for a little while doing the projects, my 2A history projects, and just knowing Dr. John Edeen from the Gun Rights Policy Conference. He goes every year. And I'm usually hanging out in the back of the room, and he's hanging out in the back of the room. So we've chatted a couple of different times. Like I say, not only is he looking good, but I'm glad to see that they're adding the hearing protection stuff to the mix because I've seen too many organizations that do something great out the gate, do stuff great for a while, and then usually because the original people, just can't juggle anymore, or they're gone, then the thing starts to dwindle. And this is the opposite of that.
Yeah, I'm wanting to learn a heck of a lot more about the history of the Hearing Protection Act, and besides a couple of maybe the obvious issues, why it isn't something that's just marched straight through. Using cans to quiet things, and the fact that they've existed historically. I think it is you made me aware of that being on one of Roosevelt's guns. That he's 100 years ago he was rocking a silencer, and how smart that was.
On a lever gun too, and it's non-concentric, right? So it's the kind where the hole is at the top of, like on the 55-gallon drum, how the hole isn't in the center. It's at the whatever. It's like that. So I just think that's cool as hell when suppressors aren't a hole right down the center. Anyway, because I guess it fit better on the on the rifle because it can hang down than in front of the magazine. Yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing, and it could totally be you could be wrapped up and given to the antis. Like, what would piss gun owners off? If they had to get a suppressor for every gun. Like if they couldn't shoot outside if they didn't have a suppressor, and suppressors are hot and noisy. Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to take them off the NFA, but that's no big deal because the NFA is from 1934 and it was written by jerks, right? It was written by assholes. So we're going to have to get rid of this 1934. But what we're going to end up doing is making it so that no gun can be louder than XYZ whenever you shoot it outside. And that'll piss gun owners off. And then sell that or give that in a nice bow. Actually, selling it to the antis would be great, right? Make a couple of bucks selling it to them. And then they go, ha, ha, ha. We're making this thing called the Hearing Mandatory Act or some shit. This Mandatory Suppressor Act. Then here's the deal. You got to get a suppressor. And if you can't buy one, then you have to get one for free from the government. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. But the rest of it, I'm not kidding about. We should do that. And then they'd force us to get cans and everything.
Yeah, I have a history of hearing loss. It actually stems from when I was a kid, and I had a series of infections year after year after year. And so I had some damage from that. And then it was occupational, spending all these years in headphones. And I mean, forget about the fact that I never wore hearing protection at a concert, and I was insisted on being in front of the mains. And on stage too, it was just, something that I did. And the tinnitus didn't kick in until I was really in my 20s, aside from club disease, like where you go into a place that's like so concussive and loud that you can't talk or you can't hear yourself, after a show. But yeah, tinnitus kicks off for me 2-3 times a day now, and it will drown out all the highs and all the lows. Thankfully, the human voice is right there in the mids, and I can still kind of adapt. I still adapt by partial lip reading, but I find myself getting more out of people's expressions. And so that's why now this last year with masks and the fact that I don't get to interact with a lot of people and half of their faces covered, I have a hard time understanding people. So I'm constantly, my good ear's my left. So I'm constantly cupping my ear like a horn and pointing it and cocking my head at people, and they speak up most of the time, so that helps. But yeah. I'm sorry?
Your ear. Get one of them ear funnels you hold up your ear.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got 15% hearing loss. All my top end is completely gone. I mean, I have 0 top end, and they said at the VA, they said, don't even listen to them. The hearing aids won't help until you start losing all your hearing. And it's the only time that's going to help. So it should be wary of hearing aid salesmen. They're going to try to rip you off and tell you they can help, but they can't. That's what the VA did.
Well, you're dealing with so many gun owners that lost their whatever hearing like that. I can't speak at my normal voice, which is usually very high pitched. I have to unnaturally speak at this tone of voice all the time because of you people. And you're hearing loss. It's uncomfortable for me, but I deal with it. So, yeah, what's going on? Are we going to have any other topics tonight? We've got 2 people watching. I don't know what's happening. Figure the internet's broken or this counter's broken. Dead Horse is out there, and I'm the other one. So Dead Horse could just join us, and we could end this thing. I wouldn't have to pay all this extra money to stream it, unless you guys got topics. Sometimes people leave comments for us from past shows. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking for a way to get away from this date in unfortunate American history. And so I'd like to take us back to 1702. And that's when 47 Ronin gathered together and executed Daimyo Lord and then committed mass seppuku. And that's been in several different movies that I've seen. And I was always fascinated by that. In good news on the American front in 1782, the Brits fled Charleston, South Carolina, turned tail, headed home. And let's see, our first president, George Washington, died in 1799 today. Let's see. Oh, in 1896, I could hardly believe that when I read it, General James Doolittle is born. So 1967, to go to tech, DNA was created in a test tube for the first time. In space, NASA's X-29 was launched in 1984. A little bit of peace happened in 1995 when the Bosnian Peace Accord was signed. And tell us about the AOL Time Warner merger in 2000.
Is that today in 2000?
Yeah, that's when you were there, right?
No, technically not the AOL Time Warner. Wait, that wasn't in 2000. Oh, wait, is that in 2000? I don't remember. I was there for the AOL Time Warner merger. Yeah, we went out in the parking lot, and everybody had a big deal. That's when I met Steve Case again, and then there was some other old guy I met that I forgot who he is now, but some other guy who was a big deal at the time. And then they brought everybody outside to a big ass tent, and that was when we were still making money. So we all had a lot of money. So they were impressing us though. So we got like this little gift pack. In fact, I just got the gift pack. Fuck. I literally have the gift pack because I was thinking about putting it on eBay because I'm selling everything on eBay. So I have a CNN hat because we own CNN, I guess. And I got a shirt that says The Sopranos. I think everybody was impressed that we own The Sopranos. We got a DVD or a CD from Sugar Ray.
The Sopranos were in 2000. I thought that was more recent.
I don't know. I got a Sopranos shirt in there.
Yep.
And then there's this catalog. What the fuck is this? This is an entertainment catalog with Christina Aguilera on the cover. She's pretty good looking. And then a Fortune magazine. I guess we owned all that shit. I guess that's the Time magazine part. And then some kind of brochure here. It says Vision of Values, Integrity, Diversity, Respect, Teamwork, Creativity, and Community. We were so fucking woke. It was 2000, you unwoke motherfuckers. That's how woke we were back then. Our vision was to inform and entertain the world. So I got a Dear AOL colleague, one of the most famous and timeless closing scenes in movie history, as you might expect from Warner Brothers, Humphrey Bogart, and some blah, 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 blah. Holy crap. And a fog-shrouded runaway. The plane carrying blah, blah, blah. Rick says, I think this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful relationship. I think there was a Casablanca DVD, but somebody wanted it, so I gave it to him like at the moment, like when we got these. But, and then there's a bunch of shit about all my fucking pay, blah, 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 and like, you know, stuff we had to buy and crap. And let's see, 20% discount at Warner Brothers, a new magazine that they were giving us. So we got a subscription to as an AOL employee. So yeah, that was a time when I was pretty much quitting, I think, because at that time, pretty sure we were all pretty much convinced that it wasn't what we were, you know, it was changing a lot. It used to be it had been a small company. It was a lot of fun being part of a small company, and it was now not becoming a small company anymore. We could all see that. And it wasn't going to be fun anymore. But yeah, that's interesting that, I don't know if that's irony or coincidence or what the fuck, that I just happened to, I saw this thing in a shelf and I was like, I don't even know what's in there, but I wonder if any weirdo would want to buy that thing on eBay, you know? Like some fan of Time Warner, I guess, or it can't be a fan of AOL, I don't think, but some kind of fan of business, maybe like a weird merger museum or something.
Well, collecting tech is something that people have been into for a while. It's just not very often that I know somebody who was there at, you know, a moment like that in internet user history.
We all traded it because I didn't give a shit about this stuff. It was like a DVD. It must have been, was it Batman or something? It was some good, no, it was The Matrix maybe? There was some real movie in there and there was something else. And I remember, like I say, I wasn't that. At the time, I felt like I was loaded. I was like, I don't need this garbage. This is crap. So I remember somebody wanted it for their kid or, you know, an extra copy for some friend or something.
Remember,
I want to hear about that, but that's sad.
Remember in like 2000, 2001, every week you'd get like 3 or 4 DVDs for AOL and Earthlink and Yahoo.
Sorry, what about them?
You would get the DVD in the mail every week, from all 3 companies. You know, you'd have a stack of them. You know, it's kind of crazy.
Well, we would, I worked, you know, it was here. The AOL started in Virginia, and then I think Tucson was the second place they spread to. Then when we were eventually in Virginia, Tucson, and Albuquerque, and someplace else. But anyway, so we were like the second, and I got on or I became a employee, like not at the beginning. The first employees got super rich. Holy crap, did they get rich? So I knew people that were some of the first employees, and they're like, "You get a job here. It doesn't matter what you know. Like, get a job here." So I was an employee not at the beginning of sending out those CDs, but for a good portion of sending out those CDs, I think, or CDs still. Anyway, so there was already people that collected them, and you know me, I'm a collector. So as soon as I figured out that that's a thing to collect, and then I put any effort into it, like I had a pretty decent collection, but it was fun. Like so some of us, not everybody did, but those of us who collected had a wild time, because if you think about whatever they sent you, they were, I think, doing that all over the freaking world, or at least definitely the whole country, and in like all the countries that spoke English. So people's CD collections are insanely neat. Like they're just real, you know, it's like imagine like a McDonald's menu collection from all over the world or something. It's all AOL, but it doesn't all say AOL on it. It's really neat. But I didn't pay attention so much to the other ones, like you say, the CompuServe or they didn't have the budget that we had, though. I mean, you might have got some from those others, but I can't imagine you got as many as, or the diversity. Like AOL, I think, would put out a different one every couple of weeks. Like that was part of their whole shtick. Can you imagine how many were sent? Just think about how many were typos or whatever. Like, oh no, it's supposed to say 5 and it says 6. And then what if programming was just bad? They probably threw away billions of those things.
I was living in Czech Republic from 96 to 99 to end of 2000 or end of 99. And they had their own little companies like Seznam and the other, you know, that were kind of the, you know, counterfeit AOL, or well, not counterfeit. They were just local, indigenous to that country. But they also had their own CDs that they were giving out. The way they did it was you'd buy a magazine or a newspaper, and they were in all those magazines and newspapers.
Yep. And there would be different kinds, because that was still back in the olden days. So like you could get different kinds of mediums sometimes.
So you would see them all over the ground, because people would buy the newspaper at the stand. And as soon as it opened up the newspaper, big CD would clunk out. They just let it lay.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when they were doing that in a lot of U.S. magazines too. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I think I mentioned this once before, G, we, when I was working at a local company, the ownership bought pallet after pallet after pallet of AOL install CDs. And they were stripping the plastic off of them and chucking the discs in one pile and the cardboard backers in another to recycle them. And of course, it didn't end up being profitable, so it was abandoned. But man, seeing all those things after seeing them again, like Wheel was saying, you know, just falling out of every periodical at the time and showing up in your mail box unannounced and unwelcome. There were tons of those.
So wait, you're saying that they would take them and rewrite them?
No, it was just recycling for the plastic itself, for the poly. Yeah.
So what do they do? Shred it?
Oh, I think that was done at the recycler. All they were doing, and they did a really great job with that project, though. But one of the reasons it ran over in labor was because they were using temps. But you know, the temp labor was, you know, just, you know, peel the strip the plastic off, separate the disc, chuck it in a bin, separate the cardboard, chuck it in a bin, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I don't think that they were making anything on it by the time it hit the recycler. But that was all the processing that was necessary. Too many touches.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think that I remember there hasn't been at least I haven't seen anything good, anything of more than just a reference to it. I haven't seen anything about the phenomenon of the AOL CDs. There's potential there, though, because it was a really interesting thing and it hit a lot of different realms. But I do think I remember seeing something to the effect that at some point during the whole madness, AOL was basically scorned. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're wasting all this plastic. What are you, idiots? Like, this is the worst marketing strategy ever. So in order to combat that, I think they did either pay for or organize that kind of thing. So it wasn't so much like, let's make this useful or make it profitable as much as like this is just trying to rescue some PR. Like this is something that needs to, like probably to some extent, like let's try to recycle these. Like we are wasting a lot of plastic. So if there is some way to reuse them, let's do it. But let's not worry about profit first. Let's like do it and see if it works. Or it could have just been somebody who saw the opportunity because there was a ton of potential there for sure. I mean, think about it, like whatever you can just do by smashing them things down, even if it was just grinding them down to glitter. I mean, you wouldn't have to make whatever it is the glitter's made out of. Like you'd save something by that, right?
Yeah,
but probably it was more like playground equipment or, some kind of piece of mat you can stand on. Usually they smash it into some sort of crude thing that doesn't need to be colored, some sort of a foam insert or it's just some different type of a plastic that they can get out of.
yeah, that does make me wonder if there was some inducement for them to pick up all those pallets. I mean, because there would seem to be like a never-ending supply, but it was just a case of too many touches. It wasn't, their recycling wasn't worth, anything by the time it was done, except a contribution toward, improving the environment, perhaps. Which
well, all
most
of that
of us
stuff
have
is
been down for.
you can't go from zero to the efficient collection of junk, right? Like something has to not make efficient, financial sense to get you to where it does make financial sense. Like just to, first you have to prove stuff, you have to make sure it's feasible, that kind of thing. So I can see somebody spending some amount of time on something that's just not adding up, right? Like not working.
Right.
Especially as, like you say, something that has a good goal. If it was like, hey, let's get a better taste in pastrami, like who cares? Like nobody's going to really lose money year after year to do that unless you're super passionate about pastrami. But for something like the environment, people put in money to make that not, that money's sieve, keep going.
Yeah. Well, and this was, turn of the green century. So as I remember it. Yeah.
Well, that was when everybody was getting woke to that stuff, really.
Yeah.
At least at a national level, like a mainstream, I should say, more like a mainstream level. All right, well, so I'm going to go, I don't know if I should bother looking at that. Then have you ever seen where they make the ropes, like a strip out of plastic bottle, 2-liter bottle?
No. When you mentioned that, I was interested by it.
All right, well then, there's little gizmos you can buy that make it easier or whatever, but basically the concept is you just chop the bottom off of the bottle and then just kind of chop into the bottle and start yanking. And because of the nature of that, you've pulled apart a 2-liter bottle before, more than likely it's kind of a fibrous plastic, right? It's a plastic for sure. It's kind of brittle. Like when you get an old one, you can snap it. It's a little bit more brittle than it is rubbery. But anyway, it's because of its sinewy-ish type nature, you can do this. Basically, there's little contraptions that look like a paper cutter or an envelope slicer that'll do this efficiently. But basically, these people, you could see they just put one cut in the tree this way, and that's all you really needed. And then a notch, a place for the knife to live, to exist in that slice. So basically, they cut a slice, and then more than likely, they cut the bottom off of the bottle. They jammed it into the slice and then just pushed the knife through the side of the jar there. And then you can see at the beginning of the video, he's just kind of tapping on it so that it goes in a little bit stronger so he doesn't have to like hold the knife there. But if you did it in some other configuration, you could easily just hold the knife or have somebody hold the knife for you. And then you just run the, once the plastic has got a little bit of a kind of like the beginning of a tape or something, once you've got something to yank on, it'll just feed itself out of there like a dispenser. And like I say, if you've got the little gizmo, you don't even need a tree or nothing. You just kind of stick it on there and start pulling it through. And all it needs to be is a razor and or a blade or something that can do this. And then what you end up with is sort of like the strap material you'd get on a pallet, or like, maybe if you get a bunch of papers, they're going to have like this kind of a strap on it that's heat pressed together as its connector. So it becomes a fairly, especially if you braid it, like if you braid about 6 pieces of that, strips of that, it's every bit as strong as like the boat rope, the crappy boat rope that doesn't get deteriorated in the water.
Yeah.
And it can be as flexible as that. It's not, you're never going to like, you probably could put a wedding dress together with it, but you're never going to make like clothing out of it necessarily, but you could make a blanket out of it or a mat or something if you had to. But yeah, that's a kind of skill that if you don't practice it a few times, you'll figure it out the first 5 bottles you do. It's not like it's a difficult skill to figure out. It might be a little bit savvy, like improvising a setup like that. You might get better at that over time. But for a little while, at least, as long as there's plastic 2-liter bottles around, and it'll work with other types of materials. It's just that I don't know what to call it. It's not really fiber. I don't know what the 2-liter bottle material is called. I think it's PTE, but whatever that is, anything made out of that material works really well. Other materials will work. They just don't feed as easily. You have to kind of guide the bottle to, it has less tendency to create a strip. It'll just dig whatever random shape out of it. So you got to kind of guide the bottle into a strip. But yeah, it's a great way to take a 3-dimensional thing and turn it into a line, turn it into a piece of string or cordage, I guess I'm saying, that can be woven or braided, turned into a net. Take two couple of 2-liter bottles and a little bit of time, and you can put a net across a stream and collect every fish going by and never need a fishing pole.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a ready source of them near most waterways.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Fortunately, they're right there. But you're cleaning up at the same time. You're repurposing.
Yep, totally. Yeah, one of the things that I found out about in Canada was old fishing nets after they were like far beyond repair, and fishermen want to repair their nets. They would eventually be unbraided and one piece woven into these crazy looking, almost like fuzzy Muppet, like long strand Muppet hair or something. And they were so soft. I had no idea what the material was. And eventually I asked, is this silk? Because I couldn't figure out what the hell it was. No, it's poly nets. Some of them are silk. The old ones are worth, hundreds and hundreds of dollars because fishermen's wives made them. Like, wow. And I was staying with this woman who had one as the mat in front of her kitchen sink. But that was great, recycling.
So you're saying they take a net, rip it apart into cord, and then re-braid that cord into a cloth?
It turned into more of a weaving eventually.
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe not a cloth, but they weave it into some sort of a blanket or a blanket, like a mat, like you're saying. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a place that's called Hans Military Surplus, and they have this crazy giant wheel. Looks like a Ferris wheel almost. It's giant. It's like 2 stories, 3 stories tall in the back of their place. It's like this giant wheel out of nowhere, right? Like behind this normal size building. And then I was talking to the boss one time, the owner of the place, and it turns out when they first started the place, the guy, like you said, they would go get the old nets, and then they would take the old net and roll it onto that roll, but they would sell the net to places like a driving range where they were golf balls, because they would put up but as a net still, obviously. But it wasn't any good for fish anymore for whatever reason. They'd repair it one last time, stick it up in garden ears, and for putting for shade. People would put it up like, hey, maybe he's like, yeah, people just came up for all kinds of uses for this stuff. So I couldn't keep it in stock for like years and years and years. And then I forgot what he said, like something changed and now you can't get the net anymore. So I just haven't had that for years. But when you said that, it made me think that'd be interesting I never thought about. I guess it probably depends on the kinds of nets too. There must be a billion different kinds of nets, but taking them apart even to cord or whatever, it is still material. It's just that it's not working as a net anymore. It doesn't mean it doesn't have its other characteristics still. And if it gets resilient enough to go through salt water a billion times, it's either, like you say, super soft at that point or like diamond or something, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, I guess I'm trying to further describe what it was like. It was kind of like a medium-length ghillie suit in its appearance. Just really shaggy and loose.
Like something that they'd have in like Scotland, made of some kind of crazy olden like weaving technique or something.
Yeah.
Or like a crude weaving technique of like the ancients or some shit. That's where I've seen some of that stuff. Or like maybe in would that be Chile? No, I don't know. I don't think it's Brazil. Wherever high Andes are, like where they're making shit out of llamas and shit. That stuff ends up looking kind of shaggy.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Alpaca.
so yeah, that's true. I watched there's a neat video. I was watching documentaries because Matt told me about a documentary about DB Cooper. I don't know if we talked about it in the show or not, but he was talking about this being a good documentary. So I went to a private movie theater and typed in to filter it by documentaries to find this one he was talking about, and it is really good. I don't even like DB Cooper all that much. I mean, the character or whatever. There was a guy named DB Cooper who hung out here. That is a totally different guy, but the character or whatever, I've heard of him. I didn't think one thing or another of him. He's just another story in history. But this movie was actually really fucking interesting.
Yeah, I've only seen that Hollywood movie, like The Pursuit of DB Cooper or whatever. That's how I became aware of the story and the lore surrounding it, and all the people crashing the.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like spawned all those forest hunters looking for DB Cooper's money. But didn't he end up like in Canada anyway?
Well, that's the whole thing. So it was hijacking of some airplane back in the day. It was the only hijacking that was successful. I guess I'm allergic to talking about it. I just sneezed a bunch of times. It was the only hijacking that was successful. He got on a plane back in the days before there was any kind of security and just sat down with a bunch of guns, I guess, and then the plane takes off. He brings a stewardess over and says, "Hey, sit down next to me. I got a bomb and I'm gonna kill everybody unless you give me a bunch of money." So she goes up front and says this. The pilots are like, "Yeah, no problem." So they land and then they call the gate or whatever, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll get you that money real quick." They let everybody off the plane, all the passengers off the plane, except for one stewardess and the two pilots and him. He gets 4 parachutes and a bunch of money, and the FBI gives him all the money in some sort of a bag that didn't. They're like, "Yeah, we gave him the money in a white bag that had no zipper and no handles." So like some kind of weird backpack that had no zipper or no handles. So he like couldn't do anything good with the money, like at least with their bag. So anyway, he takes off with the 2 pilots and the lady. They fly for a while. And they're going from like Vegas or Reno to Seattle. And somewhere over Oregon, I think, some forest somewhere, he says, "Slow down really slow and open up the wheels and slow down really slow." And then they go, "Oh, you're going to jump out the back?" And he's like, "Yeah." So then he goes to the back door, lets the airplane or the door, back door, what do they call it, stairs down. And when you do that, I guess they flap all around because they're not supposed to do it. And so the pilots think that he got smashed when the stairs are flapping up and down, but whatever, nobody knows. So he jumps out the airplane. He's gone with 1 parachute. They just let the people land. He didn't really care what happened. It was just a scam, I guess, to get him to not know what he was going to do. So they land and they interview everybody. And the one chick, the one stewardess, was like, sat with him for the whole time. So she knew about the guy or whatever. So she knew stuff. The pilots were only pilots. They didn't know shit. And then I think they might have interviewed like another person who was in, like somebody else might have actually been there at the time, like because some people knew him. He was on a plane. But anyway, after that, nobody knows nothing. So they only know vaguely where they think he jumped out. But because he was in the back of the plane, he told the stewardess to go up with the pilots. They don't know exactly where he jumped out. They have a pretty good idea of like the area because they knew, when the last time they talked to him and when they went back and looked, it had to be somewhere in there. But that's a gap of time, an airplane flying. So anyway, they don't really know where, but the FBI guy sums it up to like, well, he either jumped and made it or he died. It's like, okay, thanks, guy. So basically, that's still the end of it. But, and you would think like, okay, I just summed it up, right? But no, I didn't even spoil nothing. There's 2 people that are girls that were DB Cooper. And there's a guy who died and on his deathbed told his wife, "I'm DB Cooper." And then I think there's a 4th one that I don't remember. And I think that's the FBI guy who's like, it could have been this guy who is in Canada or something and like claimed to be DB Cooper because all their stories all add up like 100%. It's crazy. So it's a really neat documentary. It doesn't unprove any of them. It doesn't prove any of them, but it's super interesting that at the end, it's sort of like, is this guy DB Cooper? Of course he is. Like, is this guy DB Cooper? Of course it is. Is she DB Cooper? Of course she is. Is this DB Cooper? Of course she is. So it's like 2 different chicks that were dudes, two different dudes and an FBI, like all these people all line up perfectly to be DB Cooper. I think the FBI guy was the FBI guy was like, or I shouldn't say an FBI guy. The FBI's theory that he died lines up as well as the people that are alive. And the one is like, yeah, my husband went here, and then, many years later we went and stopped at this place, and then he's dropped this bag in the water, and then this, and then like she doesn't know about this because how the hell does she know about it? Because this happened before this even happened. 9 years later, down this river, a bag of money. And it's like, well, what, like it all adds up that this guy went and found his old money and was like, oh shit, it's still good except for this pile. And he threw that pile in the water and it went down to here. And then a bunch of kids found it, years later, and they found only the bad part of the money. So it's like, it's really interesting. Like I say, I'm not even big on like mysteries and blah, 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 but it was done well. And it was only an hour and a half or something. It wasn't like forever. So it was pretty interesting, especially like I say that they did a good job of like proving everybody's point, like from the perspective of the people who are proving these different points. Like they've got a lot of evidence. It's obvious why the FBI was like, we're done. Like everybody keeps coming up with shit that matches. Like we're done. Like there's no way to solve this. We're not solving it anymore. It's taking too much time. Unless somebody comes up with a dead body, we're done.
So should I just check this out for how it is that two women's stories would match up?
Huh? No, I mean, these were chicks that, did sex changes.
Oh, okay. I got it now.
After he jumped out of the airplane, he got a sex change. And then like years later, the sex changed lady was like, oh, I'm DB Cooper. And the other one was like, they're just hanging out and they're like, hey, wait a minute. If we take the sketch of DB Cooper and you can't hump your hair over, you look like DB Cooper. And then she's like, and then she got real serious and never talked to us again. It was like, that kind of like, that's interesting. But and then the other one was like told him like, oh, I'm a man or whatever, you would say like I was a man or whatever. And then like, oh, and then by the way, I'm also DB Cooper.
Wow. Yeah, what's the name of the doc?
I have no idea. It's probably just called DB Cooper. I'll just give you a link in the side chat. Well, I guess I have to do it on the computer. But anyway, it's not hard to find. It's just called DB Cooper. I think it is new. I think it is actually. Anyway, so I was looking for that DB Cooper thing and ended up, I remember what the hell I started talking about. I started talking about some other documentary because I ended up, in order to find it, because I didn't know what the name of it is either, I just filtered the movie place to show me all documentaries, period, filtered by or sorted by most recent. And then what I got was a ton of other documentaries that were super interesting. And
sometimes too, I see one and then I want to grab another, and all of a sudden I'm trying to become a miniature expert. But
I don't think about that as much as it's just I really like that, there's more information nowadays than there was back in the day. And people that are documentarists or whatever they're called are like good at it. Like there's some, they every once in a while you see one where they're obviously trying to push some position or change history or some shit. But for the most part, like the ones I watch, the tech ones and I almost only watch tech ones, industry ones, the ones like about toys or something, like they're not, what are they trying to, what are they got? Their position might be that they like Star Wars over Star Trek, but they're really just trying to illuminate either our childhood or some piece of pop culture or some interesting thing. So the stuff I'm particularly looking at isn't trying to, like, I'm not looking at documentaries on climate change. I'm sure those would be hard to watch, right? Like it'd be all weird, slanted and opinionated and shit. The stuff I happen to watch isn't super opinionated. So but I'm trying to think of what the hell other one I was going to actually talk about. I kind of got sidetracked talking about the DB Cooper one. But I guess, like I was saying, I don't know if anybody else is even out there. Dead Horse is saying that it might jump in tomorrow. That's cool.
Was maybe what you found a spawn of what you saw in High Caliber History?
Was I about to talk about that one? No, I don't think so. High Caliber History, they were talking about, no, not really. No, because the documentaries I seen, I can't think of anything there. I watched documentaries on, damn it. See, I kill my history now because my computer's running slow, so I've been killing my my search history to see if the browser will go faster like that, which is
Yeah.
annoying. 'Cause for a long time, I left my browser history on like forever because then I could, when I watch movies, I could just go back and remember what movies I'd seen, especially like on Mondays when I talk to Matt. I'll watch movies all week. I can't remember what the fuck I watched on Tuesday, next Monday. You know what I mean? I don't pay that much attention to my movies. But like this, when I'm trying to think of one that I've been watching, I dug in there and I was watching movies. There was two of them that were caught my attention. They were about cyber warfare. That's what it was about. But I can't remember what the fuck I'd have been digging into that one about on this show. I talked to that. I brought that one up for Honda. I wasn't sure if Honda had heard about that.
So like denial of service attacks and stuff like that?
No. Cyber war. Like we've had, according to this movie, we've now moved to the realm of cyber in between states, starting whenever Iran got their first nuke, we started putting code into their shit. And then the Sony movie about the interview. Remember, there was a movie about the interview, and they were going to kill the president of North Korea.
Okay.
Did you see that movie?
I don't think so.
It's comedians that did other movies. I can't think of them right now. He's kind of funny. Seth Rogen, is that his name?
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about then, but no, I haven't seen it.
With one friend, because I got this friend that he always does movies with, and they did a movie where they were going to be a talk show. They went to North Korea, and then CIA was like, "Oh yeah, kill that guy," and then it was about killing the guy, and they named the movie like, "We're going to go kill him" or something, and North Korea was like, "Hey, we don't like that," and they're like, "Hey, fuck you! What are you going to do about it? We got free speech over here." So they were like, "Okay, you want to see what we're going to do about it? We're going to use that fucking code, and we're going to hack into your shit, and we're going to tell all your competitors all your shit, capitalists, and then we're going to tell all your like viewers and fans all your secrets." And they did, and they told everybody what everybody made, and like they released all this shit. Like North Korea released all this shit that Sony had in their computers, so all the actors knew what everybody else was making, and all the new movies that were coming out, all the stuff where they were like, "This guy's an asshole, but hire him because he's, he makes money." All those kind of emails came out. Like say all the like new movies that were coming out that were secrets and stuff, they released it so that the competitors wouldn't, they would be scared to ever make a movie about North Korea or whatever. So just that kind of shit. I don't know how. I'm assuming it's accurate. I mean, I don't know how much of that shit's fake or how much of that's delusional or what, but it was a pretty interesting documentary. Mainly, I just want to see some other people's spin on it, see if the other people think it's legit or just some interpretation of stuff that happened.
Right on.
Otherwise, though, I guess we'll wrap it up. We've been sitting here for 90 minutes, and nobody's really said anything now for 25 of them, which is an indication that people aren't having a conversation, but instead maybe sleeping, maybe, I don't know, some sort of a induced coma, for like dietary reasons, inducing a coma. Maybe your nurse put on the thing to this channel so that it induces vomiting, maybe. A good weight loss thing. Maybe we can salvage this whole concept and make it a weight loss thing.
Nasty.
I gotta do something to see if anybody's gonna give any reaction out there. Otherwise, what the hell am I watching? I've been watching the shit out of Charlie Chan's.
Oh yeah,
watch that show. Well, those movies.
I've seen several of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a billion of them on YouTube. I remember one day I tried watching them all. This was back in the days of TV. So I think there must have been like, when I got rid of TV, it was when was this? I can't even remember what years it was anymore. It had to be the mid 2000s or something when I got rid of TV. And back then, whatever cable channel I still had did some sort of like Charlie Chan marathon or something. And I was like, oh, snap. I never even paid attention to Charlie Chan before. Like, this is neat. And then I started looking into it, and I forget now the details, but there's like a certain amount, there's like been a number of different, like Charlie Chan is sort of like Sherlock Holmes. Like people pick up the thing and run with it at different times throughout the years. and I never paid enough attention to realize it. So whenever I did pay attention and the internet was still new and it was fun to research shit like that, I think I put in some effort to try to watch them all because they're just neat. They're like basically like watching a 1 hour mystery type of Sherlock Holmes type of thing, except that it's super racist and whatever of the time, right? Like the 30s or whatever. So it's just super interesting, you know, watching people do weird things with ashtrays or the way they drink stuff. It's just, you know, weird. Like 30s were an odd time. And when I was young, last thing I was going to ever watch a lot was a movie from the 30s. So that was only 40 years ago back when I was a little kid, right? It was like my grandparents' thing. Like, hell, if I'm going to watch a movie that's, I want to watch some colored good movie, right? So I just never paid attention to that shit when I was a little kid. So it's a little interesting to watch, pay attention to it. Like I say, for the weirdness of it, but then also just like, I never knew what that thing was for, because every once in a while they'll use something that I seen at my grandparents' house or something, you know, like, I never seen anybody use that before. That's for cranking a clock, or that's the thing you use to get the middle out of a cantaloupe or whatever, you know, like, now I know what that's for. Anyway, so I've been watching those. Plus, I don't really watch nothing. I just let it run on the one computer over here, and it's in English. Half the shit that I whatever been watching keeps flipping over to like animes and shit where it's you got to read it half the damn time.
Oh, yeah.
All right, with that, nobody else said nothing, so we are ending it. I only give one warning and then I mope out. I'm moping out here. Thanks for showing up, DJ. Thanks for showing up, Wield and Pink and Dead Horse. And you know who to give a belly rub to? I think that was everybody tonight. We'll be back to wake up later. Wonder what happened.